Hey, come inside, come inside. So this is where I keep most of my big drag and wigs that have been styled that I can't really just put in plastic boxes. It's a hot mess, as you can see. It's Luna, or Andromeda. I'm a trans woman. I'm originally from Mexico, but I grew up in Montreal, Canada since I was 2 years old, and then I came to Tokyo in 2015.
Hi everyone, I'm Ayano from JGG and we have a special guest today. I have heard that you've been a drag queen in Japan, and when did you discover drag?
So I remember it was 15, RuPaul's Drag Race kind of started getting popular. My boyfriend at the time showed it to me and I was like, what the hell is this? It's so cool. So I had been watching it for like 3 or 4 years in Canada.
Was there any moment or like event that made you think that you want to be a trans woman, or like kind of be determined that you're a trans woman?
So there's definitely 2 things I feel very clearly. One is I watched the show Veneno. I don't know if you know it. It's a Spanish TV show about a trans woman in the 90s, and it's a documentary fictitious, and basically it's her life story in the 90s being a trans woman who became really famous in Spain. And in that documentary, she transitioned at 30. I watched this when I was like 25. So she transitioned at 30, I watched this and I was like, oh, well, maybe one day. And then I was 29 and I was thinking, I'm turning 30 next year. That's the same age as Veneno transitioned. And I was like, am I gonna do this? I don't wanna wait anymore. Like, I'm tired of waiting. So watching that documentary and seeing how that was her timeline, it kind of pushed me to wanting to stop lying to myself and just come out.
When you talk to your parents about your being a drag queen or being a trans woman, what was their reaction?
I come from a Christian family, so my whole first I came out as gay, that was a hot mess. And I was like such a problem child, so I think at one point my mom just kind of gave up. In the best way, she's like, I just learned I can't control you. You're just like, you have to be you. And then that was when I was gay. So then when I started doing drag, she was like, just don't hurt yourself, just don't break your legs. So for drag, they were kind of okay with it. And then trans was kind of interesting. I think more than anything, my mom, she told me a story when I came out to her as trans, that when I was 2 years old, she remembers me asking my grandfather that why I couldn't be a woman. So she's like, I can't blame society for this. Like, you've been asking to be a girl since you were born. Like, I know this is who you are, so I just have to accept it, but just be safe and healthy with it.
How is it being a drag queen in Japan like?
Really good in a lot of ways, because first thing is it's good train systems and safe. So I usually go to the gigs in my makeup done and everything, so it's kind of like I don't have to worry about anyone doing weird things. The scene is still quite small in Tokyo for drag, but I think there's more and more people are interested in drag. What is drag is also starting to become more popular with Japanese people.
Oh wow, that's really great to hear about it. Have you ever felt like discriminated or somehow faced a prejudice being as a drag queen in Japan?
Actually, no. I work in a creative environment, so my day job is mostly advertising, creative and stuff. So usually me being a drag queen, people are actually quite interested in it. They're like, oh, that's so cool. So in the work environment, people actually come to my shows, like my colleagues and everything. In the day-to-day life, I think people in Japan don't really bother in the sense of being discriminated very severely, physically or verbal abuse. I really haven't had much of that because I've been a drag queen.
That is good to hear.
Have you heard other people who have?
Not really, really. But some people, especially not only trans or drag, but who is in LGBTQ, might feel a little bit.
I think LGBTQ is definitely different. I think the drag aspect, because people just see it as someone wearing weird makeup, they kind of don't understand it. But for example, if you're queer or LGBTQ in the workplace, I think that's a totally different story. One is seen as entertainment, and I think that's why drag is easy, because Japan has a long history of entertainment with joso, cross-dressing makeup. You have people like Miwaki Hiro, Pita, Karuserumaki, all these different trans women drag performers that are in Japanese culture. Sexuality is a different thing. That's seeing a person with crazy makeup and costumes. Kabuki has been existed for so long, they're used to it kind of thing.
Oh, well, that's a good aspect of Japanese culture. You have mentioned about drag friends and jobs. Is there any drag communities in Japan?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few different like drag bubbles popping up now. Like honestly, like 3 or 4 years ago, there was no community. Like there was queens, but you kind of did your job on your own. But now you have people having drag children, and you have drag mothers and houses popping up. So I think there's a community that's growing, and everyone kind of supports each other as well. Everyone does different things.
Wow. Can you elaborate on drag mother and drag children?
Yeah, so a drag mother is basically, in some points, some drag baby will come to you and be like, I've always wanted to drag, can you paint me? And that's where like, my time has come to be a drag mother, put this person in guiche for the first time and do everything. And if they like it, they might want to keep doing it, and so you kind of become their drag mother. So you kind of help them with their makeup, help them with their costumes, and just get people on their feet. As a drag queen, we want more drag queens. The more of us there are, the funner the scene is, the more it gets like, I don't know, kya-kya-suru.
So you mentioned about more Japanese people is coming into the drag shows.
Yeah.
Is like, what do you think is makes that transition?
First, I think definitely the fact that Drag Race got kind of popular in Japan because it was on Netflix for a bit. I have a really funny story actually about kimono and drag. There's a kimono shop in Koenji that I went to for the first time 5 years ago. I was looking for a kimono for a drag performance, and the old lady asked me like, what are you looking for? Like, what do you want your kimono for? And I like didn't want to say it, but I was like, well, like, do you know what a drag queen is? And she's like, of course I know what a drag queen is. She's like a 60-year-old kimono obasan. And I was like, oh my God, wait, how? And she's like, I used to do the kimono for all the mama-san in like Nichome and everything, because she worked at a kimono shop near Shinjuku. So she's like, I would put them in kimono all the time and stuff. She's like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, that's so impressive.
Oh wow, so Japan is getting better and better, and like
hopefully, yeah.
Oh, that is so sweet.
Yeah.
How is being as a transgender in Japan?
There's good and bad things to everything. The thing that I think allowed me to allow myself to come out as trans, one thing I mentioned it in drag, but it's the safety in Japan. You know, every year we see like Trans Day of Remembrance, how many people lose their lives because of being trans and transphobia, and there's almost never anyone from Japan, because I think it's a safe country. Like in the streets, on the trains, like you can get to where you want to go without having much violence. I changed my name in my company. They're like, yeah, of course, we'll change your name, we'll change your email, we'll change your meishi, like don't worry. We'll like tell clients that like you change your name, like it's totally fine. I think the part where Japan is really hard is just like the systems. The systems in Japan are just not really made for trans people. Even what's required of trans women to officially be recognized in their gender is so strict in Japan with so many things. Like you have to have surgery, you cannot have children under 18, you cannot be married. Like there's so many different things that the government requires for Japanese people to recognize them as the gender that they want. Whereas in other countries, like if you go to the embassy or you go to your council and say like, I am trans, I want to change my gender marker on my passport, they'll be like, yeah, it's fine, like let's do it. Like you don't need to prove as much. There's relatively good access to healthcare for trans women, I think. More and more clinics are popping up nowadays offering hormones and whatever, like Chidio, like whatever medicine that you might want, even if it's not hormones. For now, seeing what's happening in the world, I feel very safe being in Japan, yeah.
What about being a drag queen as a transgender? Because there's a lot of like cisgender drag queens as well. Is there like a difference between? Yeah,
I think it's definitely unique. I can only speak from my experience, so I won't say like every trans drag queen is like this, but a lot of the cis gay men who do drag, for them it's like turning into a character, right? And then for that's what it was for me originally. And then all of a sudden the character and me became like closer and closer and closer. It's interesting because I just feel like a glamorous version of myself. So sometimes I'm like, am I a drag queen sometimes? But then I look at my wigs and I'm like, yeah, I'm a drag queen. But I think it's unique in the sense that you present something that other drag queens don't. Like, for example, I'll wear costumes without corsets. I can just be like in a bikini and stuff. Like it's like definitely allows you to have more like sexy showing. Honestly, like right now in Nichome, I think like half of us are trans. So I don't know, yeah.
Really? I didn't know that. Being transgender and drag queen?
Yeah.
So what's your reaction when you face misconception of the two concepts?
Oftentimes, like for example, if I'm in drag, people will come to me and be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're a man. And I'm like, I'm not. But it's just like, and then they'll like, I have to be like, oh, I'm a trans woman and everything, and they won't get it. They'll be like, no, but like, why do you have boobs? And like, oh my God, and everything. And I'll be like, because I'm not a man, because I'm trans. I just try to be polite and kind of like tell them, like I think it's really awkward for me, but it's important to also challenge their point of view at that point. Like, no, I'm a woman, and then that'll make them rethink, hopefully in the future.
I can't believe they ask you those questions.
Yeah, I was like, oh, interesting. Well, anyways, and they were like, yeah, let's meet up and grab tacos after. I was like, there's no way we're ever meeting again.
Is it like common for in transgender community when they are fighting for dates? Is it common to use apps?
I think it's quite common to use like the regular ones, like, you know, Tinder, Bumble, whatever. But I have like, for example, one trans friend, she's like, I've never actually met with anyone. Because even if you match people, for example, she was saying like on the matching apps, like once people realize that she's trans, they unmatch her. Maybe even like they'll use Hatemba, I think. There's in Ichome as well, like cruising spots for specifically trans women. I think there's a very big community of people who fetishize trans women and cross-dressing. They have these spaces to meet people for hookups.
What do you want to achieve in the future by doing the drag shows and being a trans woman in Japan?
So yeah, recently I've been thinking a lot about that. But in the future, I think as a drag queen, I would just love to produce a bigger show. I'm working right now with a producer in actually Europe to create like a big tour, like a 1.5-hour show for Andromeda. But yeah, I just want to have a bigger stage. It would be great for the queens to have a space where they can realize their vision with backup dancers and lights and all of this thing, like a big production, which is not available right now in Tokyo necessarily. As a trans woman, actually, this is something quite recent, but I've been working in film as a woman. And so I want to hopefully become a trans actress in Japan and internationally. So I'm working towards that right now. Yeah.
Beautiful. That is so beautiful.
We'll try. Yeah.
I bet you're gonna get it.
Thank you. I'll try my best. Yeah.
What do you expect from like Japan itself, the society itself, to become in the future as an acceptance of transgender or drag queens?
Yeah. Up to now, I really was very hopeful about things. Like I think I've only had, as I mentioned, like really positive experiences for the most part. So I think people are learning, and the fight for same-sex marriage and also trans rights is growing more and more as the community is also getting bigger. I know there are new groups that are having more and more backlash against it, but I just hope those stay small. And then I think that as the trans community gets a bigger voice in Japan, that we can kind of, as I mentioned, those things that the government requires, peel those back, make it less strict, and just make it easier to live. Like there's so many points that I think still like are so hard, like changing your name, changing your gender, all these things. And I think if there's one thing we can change, it's just like make it easier for us to live. Because discrimination is one of the things that, yes, gets to you, but it's more than that. It's like how everything is harder for you. Everyone else is starting at 0, you're starting at like -20, and it's like you work really hard just to be at the same line, and everyone else is working hard just to be even further. So you're like, I can't keep up, you know. And I think that feeling is what kind of is the biggest toll on mental health. So yeah, just having it an easier kurashi for trans women in Tokyo would be really great.